I'm Laura Vitale, and in this episode of Laura in the Kitchen, I want to share with you my recipe for my apple cranberry crumble. Now, I did a crisp a long time ago, but like I mentioned before, for me, a crumble and a crisp are different. So I'm really excited to share this recipe with you. It's perfect for this time of year, and it would be just delightful on your holiday table. Let me take you over the ingredients so we can get started. You'll need some apples. I just have some Honeycrisp apples that I've peeled, quartered, and then sliced just in some thick slices. Granulated sugar, brown sugar, dried cranberries, all-purpose flour, cinnamon, a little bit of butter. You'll need some more butter, unsalted of course. With an additional brown sugar, I go from vanilla sugar, baking powder, salt, all-purpose flour, some raw sugar, and some clementines and some lemons. So, let's get started. I'm actually going to start my apples on the stove top because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the butter. I'm going to take a couple tablespoons of butter. I'm going to melt this into a large skillet with high sides over about medium heat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add both kinds of sugar, my granulated sugar and my brown sugar. And it's going to create like a toffee caramel type thing. It's just going to be absolutely delicious. I'm going to start my apples on here to give them good color. But first, just melt together the butter and the sugar. Starting to bubble up a little bit around the edges, and now I'm going to add in my apples, and the apples are going to release their natural juices. It's going to bubble up and be absolutely insanely good. I'm also going to take some clementines. You can use an orange if you want to. I just happen to have clementines around this time of year on my table, so I'm using a couple clementines. I'm going to use a zest, and then I'm also going to use some lemon zest as well. I want this to have really great flavor. I want it to taste like the holidays, and for me, clementines, cinnamon, apples just screams fall and like beginning of winter and Christmas. Clementines for me, it says Christmas and winter because I remember when I was a little girl, we used to have clementines off my nonna's tree in her backyard, and my nonna used to put the clementine peels in the fireplace as he roasted our chestnuts. So it just kind of brings back a lot of memories. That looks good. Give this a really good stir. I'm going to cook these on medium heat for about 4 to 5 minutes. Smells amazing already. You want to make sure at this point you have your oven on preheated to 425. What I also have here is like a little pie dish that I've buttered with some unsalted butter. And now while that's happening, let's go ahead and get started on our topping. What I have here is my kind of traditional crumble topping. I've got some flour, brown sugar. This is vanilla sugar, baking powder, and salt. If you don't have vanilla sugar, I make my own by just sticking some vanilla pods after I seeded them for a recipe. I just take the pods and I put them in a container with sugar in there and I let it sit, and I have an amazing vanilla sugar on hand at all times. So if you don't have that, just use a splash of vanilla extract in this, but it's fine. And all I'm doing is mixing my dry ingredients together here. Now my apple crisp, any type of crisp I make, I should say, always involves oats. A crumble does not. Now that's kind of where, depending around the world, like it's different. Like a crisp is a crumble around in some parts of the world. But for me, they're two different things. So I figured I'd share this recipe with you because I was craving it, and I had some apples on hand and everything else pretty much. So I figured I'd share it with you. Then I've got some cold butter, unsalted. I'm going to cut this in with my pastry cutter. It's important that it's cold because it'll give you a really nice crisp topping. These look wonderful. I've been cooking for about 4 minutes. Look at those caramelly juices. Oh, I just love it. Now we do need to flavor this up a bit more with some cinnamon. Very traditional for me in a crisp or a crumble, especially when it comes to apples. I just love it. Can't leave it out. And then I'm just going to put a splash of lemon juice in here just to brighten things up a tad, because we do have, you know, the sweet juices, the sweet sugars and the sweet juices of the apples. And I'm going to add in my dried cranberries. These are going to plump up as it bakes, and it's going to be out of this world delicious. And to thicken those juices, we need to add a bit of flour. And that's because if we didn't, it would be way, way too much liquid. And you just need to make sure that you add a little bit of flour to thicken it, because as this bakes and the apples start to bake and get nice and soft, it's going to release a lot more juice. So it's kind of important that you make sure you add some in. At this point, I'm just going to turn my heat off. This looks phenomenal. I wish you could smell this. It smells like home, like a cozy, cozy home. Oh, I love it. Look at those gorgeous apples, studded with those cranberries. Now, I have my pie dish over top of a baking dish that I've lined with aluminum foil, and the reason why I do that is because if any of the juices were to bubble over, which it might, you're not going to catch it onto your oven. You're going to get it onto your baking sheet. And then I line it with foil because it's easy cleanup. I don't have to sit there and scrub. So anything to make my life easier, really. Take full advantage. So bring this closer to me. Take my crumble topping and then cover the top with this. It is going to bake and get bubbly and delicious, and I adore it. Nothing like a good crumble. And then I'm just going to take a little tiny bit, like a couple tablespoons of raw sugar, and sprinkle that up top for great crunch. This really gives you a fantastic crunch. And so much in food is not so much about, so much about food isn't all about flavor. It's all about, contrast in flavor. It's also contrast in texture. And I want a bit of sort of the soft, gooey apple with the bubbly golden brown of the crisp and the real crunch of the raw sugar. So go ahead and sprinkle some of that there. This is going to go into your preheated oven at 425 for around a half an hour or until it's golden brown and bubbly. Let it cool a bit and we'll be ready to serve. My crumble was in the oven for 30 minutes. I have let it cool for about 20 minutes because it was like bubbling and it was making me super, super nervous. I'm just going to serve myself up some. Look at that. Just look at the soft, lovely apples with the cranberries that have plumped up. Oh. Eating this without ice cream is like, it's like, no, I should be arrested for this. What was I thinking? That's okay. I'll get myself some ice cream after this. I mean, look at that. I just love the sticky apples. They smell incredible. They've softened, but you can still see that it's held their shape a bit. That's always what I want. If I wanted my apples to be so cooked that it would mushy, I just use applesauce. I want texture. I want them to still remain a little bit of their crunch. It's still really hot. It's perfection. So good. You need some good vanilla ice cream with this and you would be in business. In fact, I'm gonna wrap this up so I can get myself some. Go to laurainthekitchen.com to get this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed spending time with me. I need a cranberry right now. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.